Hello everyone. We are doing a trap tier list today. Let's get started. Alright, let's start off with the alarm trap. This thing has 4.5 seconds of stun, it costs 5 energy to put down, and it has a default hitbox, like the default trap here. Its ability is that it can reveal the location of the player who triggered it. The alternate, that being the robot, shows the character's outline. So if you are focusing a specific player, this will indicate whether that is the player that you are trying to get or if it is a separate player entirely. This thing is good for blocking doorways and vent openings. We're going to put it in OK because there's nothing too broken or bad about it. So let's move on to Big Trap. Big Trap has 4 seconds of stun, it costs 8 energy, and has a big hitbox. This is good for vent openings and some stairs because of its hitbox size. It is almost impossible to dodge on doorways if jump trapped, and the only bad thing about this is its energy cost, so we are going to put this in solid. Alright, Black Hole. This thing has 4.5 seconds of stun, it costs 8 energy, and it has a small hitbox. This thing does have the ability to pull in players from a good distance, making it one of the better traps. You also cannot jump over this because it will immediately pull you down into the trap itself and you'll get stuck. This is great for doorways, stairs, and vent openings, and it is almost impossible to avoid if jump trapped in a doorway. There is a hard counter to this though, being the decoy, and the alternate tornado just makes this an easier to see, so it is better to just do the normal black hole. So we're going to put this in overpowered because it is just good all around and well worth the 8 energy. Alright, default. This thing has 4.5 seconds of stun, it costs 4 energy, and has default hitbox size. It is great for spamming because it has a relatively low energy compared to the rest of the traps, and it is good for doorways and vent openings. It can be jumped over similar to the alarm trap without sprint, but it is a lot easier to jump over with sprint. And I'm talking about if this thing is jump trapped. We're going to put it in OK because there's nothing too broken or bad about it. The only good thing about it is it has a default trap size and it is pretty spammable. Alright, Egg Trap. This thing is 6 seconds of soft slow, meaning it's not as slow as Slow Trap or Snow Piggy. And it also has 4 energy to put down and a small hitbox. This thing is only going to be useful for doorways if you place it properly or on planks. This thing is going to be very useless for vent openings. And as far as doorways and planks are concerned, this is not going to be your best option. You'd be better off using a lot of other traps. And similar to, well, the defaults, this thing can be jumped over very easily, and it does have a very weird ability that only this thing can do. If you use a sprint into the egg trap, you are permanently slowed for the rest of the match until you crouch and uncrouch. That's just something a lot of people don't know because nobody uses this. In the alternate jump scare, I would argue it is better because it is somewhat difficult to tell when the slowness is gone. So we're going to just leave it in avoid. It is not worth the 4 energy, and it has a bad slow combined with the useless vision obstructed that can be easily seen around. You can still see everything, it's just a little bit annoying. Alright, Slow Trap. This thing is 6 seconds of hard slow, and it's better than the egg, thank goodness. 3 energy and default hitbox. It is very spammable. I love this thing. It is good for doorways and planks, useless for vent openings because as soon as you go into the vent, you're pretty much safe. And similar to the default trap sizes, this thing can easily be jumped over if you do not have sprint, and it is easier to jump over with sprint. And despite it not having a stun time, it is a very good counter against sprinting because it has a longer slow time than the sprint has as sprinting, that being 3. So this thing can slow for 3 additional seconds after the sprint is done. For example, if the player runs into the slow trap and immediately sprints, they will be reduced to their normal speed and not their sprint speed. So an additional 3 seconds after, the hard slow kicks in, and then you have 3 seconds to catch up to that player and to potentially kill them. The alternate to this, the slow storm, just makes this trap easier to see, so it is better to just use the default. And despite having a limited use, it excels at being spammed on doorways and is very useful. So while it's not very versatile, we're going to put in solid because it does excel at slowing down players in doorways and planks. Alright, small trap. This thing has 5 seconds of stun, 4 energy, and a small hitbox. It requires a good placement in doorways to be useful, and it is easily avoidable regardless. This thing is great for vents because it has a very good stun time. But there is one trap that is a lot better at vent openings than the small trap. So we're going to put this in OK for now. Its small hitbox makes it easier to get around, but the stun time more than makes up for it. Alright, Snow Piggy. This is 4 seconds of hard slow, it costs 9 energy, and it lasts a long time. The range of the slowdown is roughly the size of the black hole range, and it can slow down multiple players. If you're in a close chase, you can quickly place it and slow the player while in chase, and you will probably catch them if they do not use sprint. And similar to slow, when you hit a player with the Snow Piggy and they sprint, they will move at normal speed. A good thing about the Snow Trap is that it can absorb a gunshot in first person, meaning you have to use third person if you're going to shoot the Piggy. So that said, we're going to put this in overpowered. This thing is long lasting and the slow range makes it useful for Piggy and annoying for players, and this can be used almost anywhere except for vent openings. Alright, the teleport. This thing has 5 energy to put down, but it needs 10 energy to work. This teleports from teleport to teleport, but there is a cooldown between teleports. This thing is useless for small maps, and players can easily use the teleport trap against the Piggy if they place it in the wrong spots, like doorways. This thing can be used to surprise players that aren't paying attention or lost track of where the Piggy is. However, if the Piggy goes into the trap, they are basically a sitting duck for whoever has the gun, and they can shoot the Piggy very easily, and there's no avoiding it. The alternate being the chamber only makes the trap easier to see, so we're just going to put this in situational. This thing can surprise unsuspecting players, but does not happen often and has very limited use. Alright, Tombstone. This thing costs 10 energy and has a default hitbox. This thing spawns a Zombie to chase the player. The Zombie is slower than Piggy but faster than Grandma, and this thing can be easily avoided. This thing is only useful in doorways, planks, and some hallways. It is useless for vent openings though because, as I said earlier, you're gonna vent, you're safe, blah 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 blah, and it can be hard countered by a decoy, so we're just gonna leave it in a void. And despite it being the only trap to kill players, it rarely ever works and requires additional traps to be effective. Alright, inflatable. This thing has 4 seconds of stun, 5 energy, and a default hitbox. This thing is very hard to avoid, and in my opinion, this is the best vent opening trap. That said, it is also great for doorways and planks, and can trap multiple players if the inflated bit is in the middle of the vent opening or doorway, causing panic to the other players who are now stuck. On the flip side, players can trigger it freely if the Piggy is on the other side and there is no opening for Piggy to squeeze through. So we're going to put this in overpowered. It is well worth the 5 energy and very hard to counter. Alright, mouse. This thing costs 7 energy and can slide on the floor. This is easily avoidable if you are in an open room, and you can actually make the mouse fall off if you are in a high place. This thing can be used to show Piggy where players are, whether or not the players are revealed by the direction it goes. If the player is triggered as the trap despawns, the player has a permanent detection. Even if the player escapes, they will still have it at the start of the next game, and this only disappears if the player dies. The alternate spider is much more quiet than the mouse, and it can be easily used to detect players. So we're going to put this in solid. It's very good for finding players, which is its sole job. Alright, crawl trap. This thing costs 9 energy, lasts for a long time, and has a default hitbox. That said, because it's moving, this thing is very hard to avoid. And it is the only trap in the game that can chase in the vents, and is faster than a crawling player. This thing can also be used as a pseudo mousetrap in that it can show the piggy where players are. Once triggered, the trap will pull the player towards Piggy, and your only hope of countering this is going to be decoy. This thing can still be used if Piggy is stunned. Say you've been stunned for, I don't know, like 10 seconds. You can use this and then it will start to chase players and potentially bring them closer to Piggy. This thing does have a bug though, where if the last player alive is caught, the game ends. Overall, this thing is going to be good pretty much anywhere and is very annoying for players and very good for Piggy. So we're going to put this in overpowered. And that's going to be it for the tier list. If you guys would like a skin tier list, I would be down to do that. However, I do not have all the skins at the moment, so I will be working on that. But until then, feel free to let me know what you think of this tier list in the comments, and I will see you guys later. Goodbye.